Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another episode of the Think Clinical Podcast. My name is Hamza. It's always good to be here. Today's episode is going to center on a very, very important part of clinical practice and then just the business of healthcare, which is going to be on patient experience and just using patient experience as a business strategy. How do you build loyalty in this digital age? Well, how do you use the tools available to be able to build patient loyalty? What is the value of that loyalty to you as an organization? What are the challenges that potentially you might face? These are some of the things that I want to look at today. So please stick with me, and I'm sure this is going to be a very valuable one, like all others that we do. Remember to subscribe, like, and share so that you can be the first to see content like this when they come up. Anyway, so when we look at the patient experience revolution, right, we are, and for most people that I've spoken to, they're thinking this is something that is yet to come, right? But the unfortunate thing for most healthcare institutions is that their failure to recognize that this is here already is costing them a lot. And today I'm going to really break down what this could look like. Whether we like it or not, patients are now shopping for healthcare services like they do for everything else. This is the reality on the ground, whether we like it or not. This is what is happening right now. So we have to really understand what this means for the healthcare provider. What does this mean for the hospital? What does this mean for the institution that you work for? How do you position yourself such that you are seen as the leader? You have the best outcomes in terms of patient experience. How do you position yourself in that space? So when we look at this, the way people ordinarily look for or shop for everything else is either through online research. They'll go on the internet, they'll search for it, they'll see what people have to say, which is they'll look at what other people are saying against, other companies are selling versus what they're looking at the moment. They try to compare pricing, they do a lot of comparison shopping, and then now they are all driven by reviews. So the next thing people go to look at is the review. So they find you online, they look at how your services compare to another person's service, and the last thing is what are people actually saying about your service. And this is all about the patient experience economy now. And most healthcare systems, about 76% of them have invested in virtual healthcare tools in 2024 just to be able to drive patient experience and access. So there's a lot of investment that's going on there. So if you're in a healthcare institution that is not looking into just investing into this in the experience economy, as I'll put it, then it's becoming a problem. Now here's a paradigm shift, right? When patient experience has evolved from a nice to have, because initially started as, hey, if patients could book their appointments online, it's convenient, it's a nice to have thing, right? These things have moved from there to what quality initiatives are like. This nice to have quality initiatives to must haves. So businesses must really have these now. It's no longer an option for a business to decide whether or not they can have these tools in place to enhance the patient experience. Now the practices that understand aren't just providing better care, they are capturing market share. So what you need to understand is that people often think that the patient experience is not integral as far as if they're able to offer superior clinical care. But your superior clinical care has nothing to the patient if the access, the ability to get to that care is so difficult that they have to jump hurdles and jump through hoops before they're able to get to you. Now, let's look at the business case for patient experience. And I'm going to be showing you some facts here so that you see. Now let's look at some economics of like just patient loyalty in general. These are facts that you need to pay a lot of attention to. One, when you're acquiring new patients, it will cost you about 5 to 7 times more than retaining a patient. That's a fact. Fact number one. Fact number two, a 5% increase in patient retention can increase practice profits by 25 to 95%. Fact number three, loyal patients generate 67% more revenue over a lifetime. Fact number four, phone calls convert 10 to 15 times more revenue than web leads, making patients communication optimization more crucial. Again, phone calls, people think I'll just we can just let them go through the web and they can get access to it, but phone calls still convert 10 to 15 times more than everything else. Now let's do a bit of math. I'm going to walk you through some calculations, and just so that you can also do these calculations on your own when you have the opportunity. Now, the average patient has a $2,400 annual value. The average patient has a $2,400 annual value, right? So we're going to calculate how the lifetime value of a patient would look like, and especially a patient who is happy, who has a good experience, and who is retained in their practice. Now, when you have a high experienced patient, now the average patient is, the lifetime value is $2,400 annually. If you have a high experienced patient, which means a patient who had such a good experience from pre-visit all the way to post-visit, their value goes up from $2,400 to $3,800, which is huge, right? Now, when you look at the referral multiplier, now this very satisfied experienced patient averagely, and from research, generates about 2.3 new patients for the practice, which means they're able to say, does that hand hurt? Do you need to see a doctor? Do you need to see a hand surgeon? I know someone who can do this for you. He's good. And the person goes through the same experience, and the patient who has the best experience would always have bring an average of 2.3 new patients. Now look at this. The net impact of this is $14,000 lifetime value for a very, very satisfied, happy patient, compared to $6,000 for an average patient who the lifetime value of an average patient. So you need to be very, very, very careful when you stop paying attention to some of these experience metrics, when you stop paying attention to some of these tools that can actually give the patient the experience that they need. Now, how do we look at this from an online reputation and patient acquisition strategy? And there's a digital first impression, which is that 84% of patients read online reviews before choosing a provider. That is just a fact right now. So you have to be ready to be selected based on either your very good reviews or not even selected at all based on your very bad reviews or bad experiences patients have had. Now, practices with 4.5 stars plus star reviews see 70% higher new patient conversion rates, which is huge because they're already coming into the practice with a preconception that this is a good practice, these are good doctors, these are people that will give me or her on top of my issue. Now, when you look at one negative review, it requires 12 positive reviews to neutralize it. So when I work in my organization, one of the things that spark conversations really quick are negative reviews. Once I see a negative review, we dedicate a lot of resources to find out why that happened and making sure that that doesn't happen to another patient, because you will need at least 12 positive reviews to be able to neutralize the impact of that negative review. Now, responses to negative reviews has increased conversion rates by 25%, and that's a strategy that we've often looked at, where we can go online and engage with the patient and understand what the issue is and try to help, because the perception is that people and patients are able to see this and they're able to say, okay, this institution pays attention to some of the things or some of the experiences that patients have, and they're willing to do something about it. So just doing that alone helps. Now, if we look at review generation strategy, as an institution, you have to look at making sure that you have a systematic follow-up at least 24 to 48 hours after the appointment. The second thing is that you have to be sure that the multiple channel approach, which means you are sending these out through text, through email, and through the patient portal, because you want to make sure that the patient is able to see it somewhere and is able to give you that feedback and is able to understand that you want to know how the experience looked like. You also have to look at staff training on review requests conversations, just making sure that they are able to get this feedback from patients, and that will make you way better. Now, when you look at patient satisfaction, you also have to look at staff satisfaction, because most organizations that have a high staff satisfaction score, anything from 4.2 plus or out of 5, achieve patient satisfaction scores which are 35% higher than industry average. I'm just throwing a lot of numbers around, but if you think through these numbers carefully, you understand the impact that will have on your patient acquisition and using that as a business strategy. Now, when you lose a provider, it costs the practice an average of $85,000 to $125,000 per departing provider, which means if your staff satisfaction score is high, you are inadvertently saving all this money by per provider, or by not losing a provider at any point of your of the organization's life, right? So how do we actually make this experience worth it for patients in this digital environment? What are the digital experience foundations that you need to put in place? One, your website is one of the gateways to your practices, and I will say it's one of the most important gateways to your practices, probably second to phone calls, because I always put phone calls above. But when you optimize your website and you follow the 3-click rule, what does this mean? It means that patients should be able to accomplish their primary goal within 3 clicks. If there are too many clicks to be able to make an appointment, or too many clicks for patients to be able to access the patient portal, or too many clicks for patients to be able to understand pricing or insurance acceptance, or too many clicks for patients to be able to look at contact information for the practice, especially in emergencies, you will lose these patients. It should take not more than 3 clicks for them to be able to get these very basic accessibility tools. Secondly, you have to mobilize, you have to have a mobile first design. It means that most healthcare institutions are searched for on the mobile phone. So if your website is not, or your digital environment is not mobile friendly, or the design is not mobile friendly, then it's going to be difficult for people, or people would not like to visit because it's going to be very clumsy, if I should put it that way. You should have clear call to action with action-oriented language. You have to make sure that these are very clear, and you have to make sure your local SEO optimizations are on point. Now, in terms of content, you have to look at educational content that address common patient questions, so people are interested, people go there to get educated. You have to look at provider bios that actually humanize your clinical team. They don't look like demigods, they don't look like mysteries in front of the patient. You need to have those. You need to have patient testimonials. That's how, this is all on your website. These are all things that you need to be looking at. You need to have patient testimonials and success stories. I'm more comfortable when I see a patient has had a good experience, or has, from their own testimonial, is saying, especially video testimonials, is saying how they really had a good time in an office or a practice. And you need to have some form of accessibility to virtual office tours. Patients will feel way more comfortable if they have an idea where they are coming to before they actually get there. Now, your online scheduling and patient portal strategies is also another very important metric you need to be looking at. You need to make sure that your scheduling systems, there's real-time availability. You are integrating with provider calendars on your electronic health record system. You are using customizable appointment types and duration. You've automated waitlist management for cancellation. These are all important when you set them up properly, and this is very important, especially in the digital age. Now you have to look at portal adoption, and right now people, and some states require that the patients should be able to have access to their information through some form of a portal, because this part of the experience for them. So let's look at how you can lay this out operationally to create excellence for a patient. Now, how does this look like? And I'm going to walk through the patient journey with you, and this should help you appreciate what the value of that visit is going to be for the patient. Now, let's look at pre-visit. This is the initial contact through the appointment confirmation process, your website, your reviews. This is that phase of it which we just spoke about, right? Now, the arrival would span from the experience could be influenced by even just finding a place to park, a convenient place to park, through the check-in process. That's the arrival phase. The waiting phase is check-in. Now the patient has checked in, they're waiting to have an encounter with the provider. The treatment phase is when the provider really interacts with the patient and offers the care. Departure phase is when they are checked out and there's follow through, the scheduling for their future appointments and all that. Now, and there's the post visit. Now, how do you optimize all these touch points? So, for instance, pre-visit. If you have an automated insurance verification and payment collection system, it makes their life easy, because then patients are able to upload their insurances, they're able to get them verified, breakdowns are done, and everything looks good. If patients are able to have some form of digital check-in process which minimizes their wait time, guess what? That makes you look good, and that's something practical you can put on your arrival phase. Waiting, when you have real-time updates where patients get updates and they're engaged in very productive waiting experiences, then they know what to expect. They know, okay, this is how much I'm waiting, this is how long I'm waiting for, and all that. And treatment, when you focus on the treatment phase of it, you focus provider time and minimal interruption. So the provider is present with the patient, the provider is listening to the patient, is actively engaging with the patient. The provider doesn't look like they have to run into the next room to see the next patient, because obviously that's how all the setup looks like. Then it gives the patient that experience. And the departure phase, when you streamline the checkout process and clearly outline next steps. If they have FAs, you go through that with them, you make sure they have signatures. If they need future appointments, you have all those appointments put together. And just post visit, making sure they are following up and seeing how things are going. This is how you are able to, in just a few minutes, and understand the whole patient journey process. So this is important, that you look into like a more detailed structure of how you can improve the experience of a patient. From the pre-visit phase, look at everything that influences the patient's that stands in the way of the patient's experience, like a good experience for the patient. Look into all that before the patient comes in, from the packing to check-in process, to the arrival phase of it, to the treatment phase of it, to the any stage that the patient is. You need to really map out these and identify all the different things that can actually make this patient experience worth it. So this is another episode of the Think Clinical podcast. This is to stimulate a conversation. This is to stimulate the thinking, for you to understand that this is here now and you have to really start paying attention to some of these. I will see you in my next episode. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. My name is Hamza Suma.